I noticed the lights first. Not the way you're thinking. They weren't flickering or malfunctioning. They were perfect, warm, golden, neatly strung along the railing outside my apartment. Too perfect, like they were trying harder than they needed to. Beyond them, the night was wrong. Snow was coming down hard, thick flakes smearing the air into static. Visibility dropped to maybe 10 meters. Everything past the lights dissolved into a moving wall of white noise, like the world hadn't finished loading yet. I was about to close the blinds when I saw him. At first, I thought it was a trick of the snow, a shadow bending oddly, perspective lying to me. My brain reached for rational shapes: coat, hunched man, maybe someone drunk wandering too close to the building. Then the eyes opened. 2 white points suspended in the dark, not glowing, present. They didn't reflect the light, they absorbed it, like holes punched through the night, showing something behind it. He stood just outside the reach of the Christmas lights. That line mattered. The snow piled up around his feet unnaturally, as if it didn't know how to interact with him. His legs were too long, bent at angles that made my knees ache just looking at them. His arms dragged slightly, joints hanging low. Fingers splayed into the snow like he was steadying himself against gravity. He wore a Santa hat, not a costume, not clean. The red was dark, soaked through. The white trim matted and gray. It sat wrong on his head, like it had been placed there afterward, like someone thought it was necessary for him to be understood. From his mouth, or what should have been his mouth, black liquid spilled downward in thin strands, freezing mid-drip before breaking off and vanishing into the snow. When he breathed, it made a wet sound, like something clogged trying to remember airflow. We stared at each other. I didn't feel fear at first. I felt recognized. Something in the back of my mind whispered, "Don't move." Not because he would chase me, but because movement would complete something. Like the scene wasn't finished yet. The snowstorm swallowed sound. No wind, no distant traffic. Just the soft hiss of flakes hitting glass and the faint electrical hum of the Christmas lights. Then he took a step. Not toward me. Sideways. One long limb shifted, planting itself closer to the light boundary but never crossing it. His body followed in a slow, unnatural crawl, spine flexing wrong, like a marionette pulled by hands that didn't agree on direction. I realized then, he wasn't trying to enter the light. He was avoiding it. My phone was already in my hand before I consciously decided to record. The camera struggled immediately. Grain exploded across the screen. Focus pulsed in and out. The storm looked fake through the lens, like an overlay. But he was clear. Too clear. The white eyes locked onto the phone. He reacted to being recorded. His head tilted sharply, bones clicking softly. The hat slid slightly but didn't fall. A sound came from him then, low, vibrating, almost like a hum, as if his throat was resonating with something deeper inside his chest. And then he smiled. I think it was a smile. The black liquid stretched, split, pulled back to reveal too many teeth, uneven and narrow, packed together like they were grown for something smaller than his skull. The smell hit me through the glass. Rot, cold metal, something sweet underneath like old candy left too long in a pocket. He raised one arm, not waving, pointing at the lights, at the line. I understood. He doesn't cross into the places that believe in him. He stands where belief fades, where decoration turns into obligation, where warmth becomes performance, where people put up lights not because they feel safe, but because they're afraid of what the dark will notice if they don't. The camera glitched hard then. The screen went black for half a second. When it came back, he was closer, not physically, spatially, like the distance between us had been edited. The snow between us looked thinner now, the air denser. His limbs twitched in small, excited adjustments. The black fluid dripped faster, hitting the snow and disappearing instantly, leaving no stain. Behind him in the storm, I saw movement, not shapes, heights, multiple, different sizes, all staying just outside the light. I stopped recording. The moment I did, the lights went out. Not all at once, segment by segment, retreating down the railing like something pulling them away from him. Warm gold collapsed into darkness, and suddenly there was nothing between us. The storm hushed. He stepped forward. The snow accepted him now. His feet sank in naturally, leaving deep impressions. Bells rang somewhere, soft, distant, wrong. He straightened slightly, testing the space as if rules had just been lifted. I backed away from the window. I didn't run. Running would have made it real faster. From outside, something scraped along the building, slow, careful, counting floors. I heard breathing near the wall, wet and patient, not searching, waiting. I locked the door even though I knew it didn't matter. I stayed in the dark until morning. When the sun finally came up, the storm was gone. Clean snow, perfect silence. The lights were back on, glowing like nothing had happened. Outside, in the snow, no footprints except one, right where the light ends. Too long, too deep, facing the building, facing me. I don't decorate anymore, but every year, when the snow falls just right and the world feels muffled, I swear I see white eyes watching from the edge of where warmth stops, and I know he's still there, standing patiently, wearing the idea of Santa, waiting for the lights to go out again. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed on the couch with the lights off, blinds half open, watching the snow erase the world frame by frame. The Christmas lights outside had come back on by themselves at some point, glowing warmly like an apology. I didn't trust them anymore. At 4:11 a.m., my phone vibrated. A system notification. Motion detected. The camera feed loaded slowly, buffer stuttering like it didn't want to show me what it already knew was there. The balcony was empty. No movement, no shadow. just falling snow and the railing wrapped in lights. Then the feed shifted, not panned, shifted. The camera angle was lower, closer to the ground. Something had adjusted it, and in the reflection of the glass door behind the warm glow of the lights, I saw him standing directly behind the camera, so close that part of his face was cut off by the frame. The white eyes were level with the lens, staring through it. The feed cut to black. I didn't check again. Morning came late and colorless. The storm had passed, leaving behind that kind of silence that feels staged, like a movie set after everyone goes home. I forced myself outside eventually. I needed proof, evidence, something physical to anchor the night to reality. The snow near the building was pristine, except for the railing. The lights were intact, but every bulb on the lower half was coated in a thin black film, like dried oil or frostbite residue. It flaked off onto my fingers when I touched it, evaporating into nothing almost immediately. No footprints, but the snow beneath the railing was compressed, as if something had crouched there for a long time without moving. That's when I noticed the smell. Burnt plastic, wet fabric, old breath. It followed me back inside. The day passed wrong. Sounds felt delayed. My reflection didn't always move when I did. Just a fraction of a second behind, enough to notice, not enough to prove. I kept seeing red in my peripheral vision, not bright red, faded, cloth red, a hat. That night, the snow returned. He did too. I knew before I saw him. The lights dimmed, not off, not flickering, just tired, like they were losing the argument. I stood at the window again despite myself, heart hammering, knowing that avoidance had already failed. He was closer this time, much closer, right at the edge of the light. His body was more visible now, long, thin torso bent forward unnaturally, spine bulging beneath black skin that looked stretched, pulled too tight over what was underneath. His arms hung low, hands resting in the snow, fingers flexing slowly like he was testing sensation. The Santa hat was frozen stiff, crusted with ice and something darker at the edges. From his mouth, the black liquid dripped steadily now, pooling briefly before being swallowed by the snow. When it hit the ground, the flakes around it melted slightly, then refroze in sharp, unnatural patterns. I realized then, the snow wasn't falling on him. It bent around him, like the air refused to touch him directly. He lifted his head, and behind the white eyes, something shifted. Not emotion, calculation. He took one step forward. The lights didn't go out. They gave way. Bulbs burst silently, glass collapsing inward as if crushed by pressure rather than impact. The warm glow retreated up the railing, leaving him standing in a pocket of darkness that moved with him. I stepped back. He mirrored me. Not physically, spatially. Every step I took back, he occupied the space I'd just left. That's when I heard it inside the apartment. Not bells, footsteps, wet, slow, too heavy for the floor to justify. The sound came from behind me, from the hallway. I turned. Nothing. The apartment was empty. When I looked back at the window, he was gone. The snowstorm intensified instantly, like something had been released. Visibility dropped to nothing. The lights flickered wildly before stabilizing again, whole, unbroken, pretending nothing had happened. Then my phone vibrated. A new video file. No timestamp, no file name, just a thumbnail. It showed my apartment from the outside, from the snow, from his height. I deleted it. It reappeared, this time longer. The video played on its own. Shaky, blurry, breathing audible, wet, uneven. The camera moved closer to the glass. I watched myself inside, frozen at the window, face pale, mouth slightly open. The camera tilted upward. The reflection showed his face over mine. The video ended with a single frame of white eyes filling the screen. I unplugged the lights that night, pulled every decoration down, darkened the apartment completely. The darkness felt disappointed. I don't know where he goes when the lights are gone, but I know he doesn't leave. He waits just beyond whatever boundary you believe in. And the moment you stop believing, he steps forward. I learned too late that darkness is not the opposite of light. It's just another surface. After I unplugged everything, the apartment became unnaturally still. No LEDs, no standby glows, no reflected warmth. I thought I had erased the line he needed. I thought removing the lights meant removing permission. What I actually did was remove witnesses. The first thing that came back was the sound. Not footsteps. Breathing. Inside the walls. Slow, wet, patient. It didn't move from room to room. It was everywhere at once, like the building itself had lungs and didn't know how to use them properly. Pipes clicked in irregular patterns. The refrigerator hummed in a rhythm that almost sounded intentional. I sat on the floor with my back to the couch, phone in my lap, screen off. That was my last mistake. The screen turned on by itself. No unlock animation, no notification banner, just light, cold blue-white, filling the room like an exposed nerve. The camera app was open, front-facing. I was already in frame. Behind me, in the dark of the apartment, something moved. I didn't turn around. I watched the screen. The grain was heavy, the image smeared by low light, but I could see it clearly enough. A shape unfolding behind my shoulder, too tall to stand fully upright, limbs bending, adjusting, compressing to fit the space. The Santa hat dragged against the ceiling as he crawled forward, the fabric leaving dark streaks like soot. The black liquid was thicker now. It didn't drip, it stretched. Long, stringy strands hanging from his mouth, connecting briefly to the floor before snapping and recoiling back upward, as if gravity worked differently for him. When he breathed, the strands trembled. He didn't look at me. He looked at the phone. That's when I understood. He wasn't inside the apartment. He was inside the recording. The camera glitched, frame rate stuttering, and suddenly the distance between us collapsed. He was closer without moving, filling more of the screen, his white eyes blooming brighter against the noise. The breathing grew louder, not around me, from the phone speaker. I dropped it. The sound didn't stop. It came from the room now, from the walls, from inside my chest. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door, heart pounding so hard it hurt, pressing my weight against the thin wood like it mattered. The breathing followed me, stopping just outside. I could see the shadow under the door, too tall, too uneven, pulsing slightly as if it were still buffering. Something scraped along the door frame. Slow, careful, learning. Then his voice came, not speech, a recording of speech. Layered, distorted, familiar in the worst way. Children's voices, holiday ads, laughter slowed down and pitched wrong, all overlapping, playing through something that didn't have vocal cords but knew how sound was supposed to work. Have you been good? The words dragged, stretched thin, as if the sentence itself was being pulled apart to see what fell out. I screamed. The scream echoed back to me a half-second later, flattened, compressed, replayed through the door in the same broken cadence. He was sampling me. I covered my mouth. The sound stopped. Silence returned so abruptly it made my ears ring. Then the door handle turned. Not violently, gently, testing. The lock held, but I felt the pressure on the other side, not force, but expectation. Like the door should open because the recording said it was time for it to open. I slid down against the wall, sobbing, eyes fixed on the handle. That's when the phone buzzed again. From the other side of the door, a notification sound. My own. Recorded earlier. Played back perfectly. The handle stopped turning. The shadow retreated. I waited until my legs went numb. When I finally opened the door, the apartment was empty. No breathing. No shadow. No smell. Just my phone lying on the floor, screen cracked, camera still open. The last video file had saved successfully. I didn't watch it. I already know what it shows. I know because sometimes, late at night, when my phone lights up for no reason, I see a reflection that's too tall, standing just behind me. Not entering, not leaving. Just waiting for me to press play again. I don't record anymore, but it doesn't matter. Once something has been remembered, it doesn't need permission to return. And he remembers me perfectly. It started with messages. Not comments, not public posts, direct messages, emails, things meant to feel private. People who had watched the video, people who had paused it, people who swore they hadn't even finished it. They all described the same thing. a shape in the background, always tall, always wrong, always just outside whatever light source the recording had. Street lights, Christmas decorations, phone screens, laptop glow, never fully visible, never fully hidden. At first I thought it was suggestion, pattern recognition, the internet doing what it always does, connecting dots that weren't really there. Then someone sent me a screenshot. It was a still from my video, not the one I uploaded. A frame I didn't remember recording. It showed my living room from an angle I couldn't have filmed from, too high, tilted downward slightly. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the phone screen reflected in the window. And in that reflection, he was standing behind me, closer than he ever was before. His head nearly touched the ceiling. The Santa hat hung loosely now, slipping off to one side like it had lost its purpose. The black liquid from his mouth pooled on the floor in the reflection. But when I looked at the same spot in real life, there was nothing there. The sender wrote only one line. He wasn't there when I watched it the first time. More messages followed. A girl said her brother had filmed their living room on Christmas Eve. Just a quick clip for social media. When she watched it later, she noticed a tall figure standing in the hallway behind him, motionless, half lit by the TV glow. Her brother insisted no one was there. He refused to watch the video again. A security guard sent me night footage from a closed office building, empty corridors, flickering lights, and then halfway through the clip, a shape standing inside the reflection of a glass door, visible only when the camera angle lined up just right. White eyes, always the eyes. I stopped replying. It didn't stop him. The comments changed tone. People weren't asking questions anymore. They were reporting symptoms. Sleep paralysis, the sensation of being watched through screens that were turned off, phones activating on their own, cameras opening without warning, recordings saving themselves. One message stuck with me. A father. He said his daughter had been watching my video on her tablet. She paused it, pointed at the screen, and asked why Santa was standing in their hallway. He laughed at first, then he checked. There was no one there. That night, the daughter refused to sleep unless the lights were on. All of them. Every bulb in the house. He sent the message at 2:06 a.m. At 2:19 a.m. he sent another. Just text. No punctuation. The lights don't help. After that, nothing. I tried to delete the channel. The button didn't work. The page refreshed. The video stayed. The view count kept increasing, even when analytics said no one was watching. Average watch time dropped to 0, then spiked to impossible lengths, hours, days, repeating the same viewer ID. Something was looping. I realized then what he was doing. He didn't need to cross into the light anymore. He learned to stand behind it, behind the camera, behind the recording, behind the memory of the image. Santa was never the point. Santa was camouflage, a shape people invite in, a figure people expect to see near windows, near lights, near homes. A lie that lets something taller stand close without raising alarms. He doesn't enter houses, he enters recordings of houses. He doesn't watch people. He waits to be watched. I tried one last thing. I recorded myself again, not the apartment, not the window, just my face, close, centered, no background, no shadows, no light behind me. I spoke directly into the camera, steady, calm, explaining everything, the rules, the lights, the recordings, the way he moves when remembered. I told them not to pause, not to rewind, not to look at reflections. When I played the video back, it wasn't my face anymore. The frame was taller, stretched. My mouth moved too slowly for the words coming out. The black liquid ran freely now, dripping past the chin, staining nothing. And behind my eyes, white, watching. The file renamed itself. Thank you for sharing. That's when I understood the final truth. I didn't survive him. I introduced him. Every view is a doorway. Every pause is an invitation. Every person who looks for him gives him a place to stand. If you're listening to this now, and you think you're safe because you're only hearing my voice, you're wrong. Sound remembers too. And if you ever catch a glimpse of something tall in the reflection of your screen, don't rewind. Don't record. Don't try to prove it. Because once he learns your angle, he doesn't need Santa anymore. And he already knows where the light ends.